Know that I was born and raised mostly in Saskatchewan. But there was a glitch in 1948, and that's the Christmas I'm going to take you back to. Dad came home in the fall of '48 and he said, "We're moving to Winnipeg. And we can't take your dog." That was a pretty sad moment for me. The dog was a 6-year-old border collie, same as me. I wasn't a border collie, but I was 6 years old. And he said, "But don't worry, we've got a good farm. We've got a good farm home for her out 7 miles out of town." So when the time came, we loaded her into the car, took the dog out 7 miles out of town, left her there. It was pretty sad. Came home the next morning, the dog's asleep on the foot of my bed. Looking none too happy that we made her run 7 miles. So we did it again, and this time Dad, he went by himself. I didn't go with him. I couldn't stand it 2 times in a row. And he took her west, and he took her south, and he took her north, and he took her on about a 15-mile trek, thinking that she wouldn't get home, but next morning she's on the foot of my bed. Anyway, we found out that she came back to town a few times before she finally decided that we'd gone to Winnipeg for good. That's a sad story, but that made me want to hate Winnipeg in school. And I did. My sister had to drag me to school every day, kicking and screaming. But I think the thing that I hated about Winnipeg the most, that school, Alexander School, it was an inner city school, and it had the silo-type fire escapes. I don't know whether any of you have ever seen them or not, but you had to jump into them. It looked like a water slide. You had to jump into it. We were on the 3rd floor, and you go down and down and down, and then, yeah, it sounds cool, but it wasn't cool when you're 6 years old. And it came out about 3 feet on top of the ground, and the grade 6 kids were supposed to catch it. And Eaton's store, Eaton's parade, Eaton's windows, they were just magical. They had everything in them. All 4 blocks of Eaton's store was all magical windows. It was a wonderful time. It was time for me to write my letter to Santa. And I did. Mom said she'd post it. I trusted Mom. Who else could you trust? And I know Santa got it because he brought me everything I wanted. He brought me a wagon, brought me a hockey stick, and he brought me a promise that we would go back to Unity in the summertime. We had to go sooner rather than later. We went in the spring that year because we were evacuated because of the flood. But there are many things I remember, some of them not so clear. But the one thing that I do remember is visiting a friend of Mom and Dad's who had polio in Winnipeg. And I'll never forget the sound of that iron lung. So don't you ever give up on your dream to eradicate polio, because we're just this close. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a good one.